Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. Welcome back to another Wednesday episode of Trading the Markets with Kris Bullock, aka Blasto Plast. And what a great day to be doing a trading show because the market is green. Bitcoin and ETH are nearing their all-time highs. Solana crossed $200. SWI crossed $4. The meme coin market is showing some great strength. Just a great day to be, in crypto, right? We haven't had many of these, so we have to celebrate them when we're getting them. And hopefully that's it. We're in the banana zone, right? So hopefully, the higher highs and higher lows as well are coming our way. And with that, I do want to remind everyone we have our Ready, Set, Connect. It's a 2-week series built for this market right here, right now, with real world tactics on how AI, crypto, and macro collide and where you can find a real trading edge. So click the link below or head over to realvision.com/ready, set, connect. Make sure you join, make sure you watch. We have some great content coming your way. Like, for example, Andreas and Jordy Visser dropped on the platform today where they explore all the biggest opportunities in AI, from traditional markets to crypto to just brand new cutting edge AI tech. It's definitely one that you'll want to catch. And also make sure you go back and watch Ral and Jordy Visser's conversation as well, where they dove into just a variety of fascinating topics on AI and where we're heading. And also just a reminder about Connect. You don't just get our great Connect content on the platform. You also get 2 different portfolios, one from our very own here with us right now, Kris Bullock, who is up, oh my God, he's up 2x since May 2024. So incredible returns. He's outpacing Bitcoin by over 30%. And so he just builds a nice portfolio for degens and newcomers alike, honestly. And you also get Joe Bland's entry-level crypto portfolio as well, and he's up quite a bit. Last I checked on his portfolio, he was up 51% since his 4-month inception. So great, just great alpha and just great content. So make sure you sign up. Make sure you tune into our AI 2-week series. And yeah, let's just share ideas with each other. Kris, how are we doing? It's a great time to be in the markets and doing some TA.
Indeed it is. Yes, no, it's all about Ethereum right now. I mean, Ethereum is kind of the talk of the town. It's nice to see. It sort of makes me feel like, crypto's back. Now that Ethereum is in the conversation again, and I feel like everything is kind of back on track, back to normal, and we can really commence with this banana zone in earnest at this point. And so it's exciting times indeed. So I wanted to start basically just by digging into the Ethereum chart because not only is it back, but it's very, very close to all-time highs. So let's take a look at the chart here. For example, we've actually been in this long-term wedge pattern going back. Well, really the top of it started back at the previous all-time high in November of 2021, and then all the way up through this 4-year cycle, we've held this bottom trend line until we had, well, admittedly, a pretty unnerving wobble, a little more than a wobble, I'd say. We had this big correction at the beginning of the year, and it really broke down and lost that trend line. But then, it came zooming back right when everybody was like, oh, Ethereum's dead. Even myself, I'll admit, I thought Ethereum's dead. Like, it's maybe not dead as a project. I never thought Ethereum was dead as a technology, but I thought maybe Ethereum was no longer the investment it once was. And of course, right when everybody capitulated is immediately when it reversed and has since been one of the best performers coming out of the lows, the April lows. And it in fact broke out of the upside of this long-term wedge pattern just last week. And I remember on our Monday show, I said, if it has another candle as big as last week's candle was, we'll be hitting all-time highs like this week. And well, we're right on track to do that as it stands now. We're a little over $100 away, $150 away to be exact in this moment, which is nothing. And so pretty exciting times. It's good for ETH. You definitely can tell that it's maybe taking a little bit of air out of the rest of the market at the moment. Like everybody's kind of piling in on ETH at the moment. It's the crowded play. It's the big trade. And so some of the other alts are, you know, taking a bit of a back seat in this moment, which we can touch on. But the big caps, I think, are moving well, nicely. Not only ETH, but we're also seeing Solana moving well. We're seeing SWI moving well. And so I wanted to just kind of spend a little bit of time looking at both of these or some of these other assets on a weekly time frame chart, just to show that they have good structures too, that, you know, I think that good things are happening, and it's only a matter of time before we see these breaking out too. So actually, let's look at Solana and SWI briefly real quick. Here's the SWI chart. It too has a big wedge pattern that it's been forming, not quite going back to 21, of course, but yeah, it's coiling basically. It's coiling, it's holding support on this horizontal line right at around $4. And I think, you know, I think it's ready to rip as well. And then looking at Solana, same thing. If even better, you know, Solana is actually maybe a tick closer to its sort of all-time high, and it had an all-time high more recently as well. But it's also holding, you know, fine support here, and everything looks good. They're in weekly uptrends, which I think is really important. They're both above their 10-week moving averages. Both the 20-week moving averages are pointed up and to the right. So we're in solid weekly uptrends on both of these. And I feel like it's at the moment in the larger rotation that takes place within the crypto ecosystem. We're kind of in that phase where it's the majors' turn to run. You know, even Bitcoin to a degree. We're looking at, you know, the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, Solana, SWI, XRP, BNB, like those top 10 tokens. Those are all doing well right now, and a lot of the other ones are a bit in the red at the moment. But that's okay, because we know, I mean, give it a week, and next week it's going to probably be the opposite. Next week we're going to have lots of memes running, lots of alts running, and these other ones will be taking a breather in that moment. So yeah, just kind of good stuff all around right now. It's like you said, it's exciting times.
Yeah, and this is, you know, this is the moment we've kind of been waiting for. You know, we've talked about this quite a bit on our Monday and our Wednesday show about ETH, needing ETH to break out to really signal the coming of alt season. So, you know, we have that moment. You know, ETH really just started showing that strength kind of, you know, this month, really. So, you know, these things, they come fast, right? But they also take time to build up that momentum. And once that momentum gets that full steam, then, you know, you better be on that train, because it's taken off. So I would say, you know, just because maybe your coins, like I was speaking to Kris offline before, and, you know, I was expressing a little disappointment in the lack of SWI's pump action, if you will. But you know, it's a great reminder that, you know, alt season is here with ETH, and that ETH strength is going to trickle down, especially to, not to everything, right, but to the things that are showing strength that we often chart on this show. So absolutely love that we're starting with those charts. Kris, did you have another chart that you wanted to mention, or should I start going into some of the questions we've got? Which actually, let me remind everyone, if you have any questions, we do have a bunch of charts to get through today. But if you want us to see a specific chart, just throw your question on X or in the platform chat, and we'll get to them.
So yeah, we had kind of in the lead up to the show, and in some of the comments on like the Monday show, for example, we did get a few requests that I want to address, chart requests. And so let's start with those. And I'm going to kind of lump two things into one here by probably showing these charts like against their Ethereum pair, you know, because a lot of people are like, how is, say, you know, can we look at Link? Can we look at AVAX? Can we look at Injective? Can we look at some of these other charts? And absolutely, but I think you want to make sure that they're outpacing, you know, a lot of the majors right now, the leading charts. And normally I would do that against Bitcoin, but I think in this moment, let's take a look at them against ETH, because that's a little bit more relevant right now, and a little bit more stark, even, I might say. So let me switch here to a daily time frame, and then I want to start with Link. So Link has been coming up a fair bit, because Link has had a nice run, admittedly. Like it, you know, had a really good, solid last couple of weeks. It bounced hard out of the lows, and so we're actually looking at the Link Ethereum chart here. So as good as we know Ethereum has been doing, Link has actually outpaced Ethereum even to some degree over the last month. But if you look, it's really not outpaced Ethereum since the April lows, and it's actually in a longer term downtrend against Ethereum right now too. And then I kind of want to look at it too against the Bitcoin pair briefly as well, because that's interesting as well. And more importantly with Link, because Link comes up a lot. And I get it. It makes sense because it's an amazing tech project. It's like an essential key piece of infrastructure for the crypto ecosystem. It's, if it went away, it would be catastrophic. I totally get that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Link as an investment is the best way to go. Oftentimes you'll find in crypto, and even confoundingly so, that some of the best technology doesn't equate to the best price action. And unfortunately, Link happens to be one of those. And what we're looking at here is the Link Bitcoin chart. And we can see since Link peaked against Bitcoin back in August, all the way back in August of 2020, it's just been pretty much down only. It's like, yes, there's been occasional periods of outperformance, even some that would go as long as 6 months. But like by and large, if you were, holding Link for the long term, you would have lost tons of value against just holding Bitcoin on its own. And so I just want to make sure that if you're looking at this sort of breakout that Link is having right now, that you sort of remain cognizant of the larger long-term picture and know that we really need to see like something more than just a few weeks of spiky price action, because a lot of times what happens is it just immediately reverses, and then suddenly, a month or two later, you're down even more against Bitcoin. And again, you'd have just been better off holding Bitcoin. So when people ask me, should I be looking at Link? This is the first chart I show them, because I'm like, yes, it depends. It depends on what your time frame is. It depends on what your goal is here. If you're looking for like a short-term trade, yeah, probably. You could probably do pretty well. You might even do real well. But if you're looking to hold it, if you're thinking you want to hold this to the end of the decade, for example, yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. That's definitely a different answer in that scenario. So I think keep that in mind. And then let's kind of look at AVAX under the same lens here. And it's almost exactly the same conversation. We had this amazing period of outperformance at the beginning of 2024, where it caught up a ton, and even significantly reversed this downward trend. But really, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this big run only lasted 2 months. And then basically it's been down only again from there. So sure, if you happen to catch it and ride it for these 2 months, great. Chances are you wouldn't have sold the top in that scenario, and before you knew it, you were all the way back down. So kind of the same thing with AVAX. Just be careful. Like again, these are good projects technically, but like you have to really focus on what the market is paying attention to right now. The market's going to tell you where the money is going, and that matters more than the tech more often than not. And so that's unfortunately the case with AVAX too. And then briefly, one more before we kind of move on to something else. There was another one, Injective, that had come up, and I might have to just type this one in. I don't see it here. Oh no, it's right here. Injective is a little bit different story. Like for the first half of this 4-year cycle, like all of 23 and even all of 2024, Injective was amazing against Bitcoin. Like it was one of the best performing assets in the whole space for like the first half of this 4-year cycle. And then just, come the beginning of 2024, it's literally given almost all of that back. Like it's kind of crazy. But if you look here, Injective could be doing a reversal against Bitcoin. Now, I can't say for certain that we're going to start to see, another rally like this come out like we did here right now, but credit where it's due. It has reversed against Bitcoin. It is setting, higher highs since sort of the April lows. So it's like this could be a decent one to get into for the stretch, because we know that Injective can get market buzz. It can get the attention of the market. It can get a strong bid. It has shown that it can do that this 4-year cycle, which I think is important. And so we might be in the beginning of that stage. It's yet to see. We need to still see it kind of set a little bit further higher highs here, but Injective could be one to pay attention to. I think it's a little bit too soon. It's maybe a little bit of a aggressive entry to get in at this point, but I kind of like what I'm seeing here. I think it's a more sustained reversal pattern, bottoming reversal pattern than either of those other two we just looked at.
Well, while we're still on the topic of alts, especially alts versus ETH, we have a question from Andy on X. I'm thinking another 4 to 6 weeks until alts such as HBAR and SWI have true face-ripping rallies. Kris, what are your thoughts on that time frame?
That kind of lines up. I do think over the next probably week to 2 weeks, we'll generally see everything going up a fair bit, but then I'm anticipating September to be not great. I don't know what that means exactly. I do think historically, like from a seasonality standpoint, September is one of the worst performing months kind of across the board for all of crypto. And so, you have to kind of factor that in. Also, just cyclically, in terms of like Bitcoin, how it goes in its sort of 60-day cycles and weekly cycles, that kind of lines up too with September being not great. I don't know what that means by not great. That could mean anything from, it goes sideways to it goes down 20% on Bitcoin side to maybe because everybody's thinking it's going to go down in September, maybe we're all wrong and September's going to be green just to prove us all wrong. It's like you never know because you have to factor in, a lot of exogenous stuff that's going on with the regulatory standpoint, macro standpoint, things like that. So there's definitely factors out there that can serve to influence the charts and outweigh the sort of cyclicality of Bitcoin and crypto. So we'll have to see, but I generally agree with that. That after September, I think the whole market, obviously including the likes of like you said, HBAR and SWI and Solana and things, I think everything's going to go on a run at that point. I think October through the end of the year probably will be that face melting rally, which again, also because it's also the consensus, hopefully that doesn't mean we're wrong there too. But probability wise, I think that's likely the most likely scenario. I'll say that.
Yeah, if there's one thing I've learned about these markets is they will often do what you least expect them or
exactly
want them to do. So
exactly.
Well put there. Kris, I had a coin that I actually wanted you to check out as well. One that I mentioned a while ago when it first dropped, which is Grind. Grind the coin, the hamster coin. It is the #1 meme on Abstract. So why don't we check in on how that's doing? It has a little bit more price history than when we first mentioned it. What do you think about what the charts say about that one?
I remember when you said that, and we charted it at the time, and it was very early days, and it was a bit on a downward trend here as it was sort of finding its bottom, and then it kind of has plotted sideways for more than a month since then. And then I don't know, maybe Bijan, whatever happened on August 8th, but that was the catalyst it was looking for, because since then it's just been, that's your face melting rally right there if there ever was one. So yeah, I mean, let's see, what did this do in this stretch? It was I mean, at one point, yeah, 180%, so almost a 3x. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely down a bit since then. It's kind of come down perfectly and is tagging its 10, what are we on? 10 bar moving average. We're on the 4-hour time frame right now. So it's 10 bar moving average. Since it is quite so extended like this, there's a decent chance it'll come all the way back down to its 20, as it often does in these big corrections. Let's this one's calling for like a fib too. These big rallies, they're perfect for this. So it's not even down to its 382 yet. So it's probably got a little ways to go. Typically with a big run like this, it's not uncommon to see, a 0.5 or even a 618. And so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, definitely whatever is going on here, it's got people's attention. And even with these, they don't necessarily have to correct all that much if the larger market is running and suddenly there's big hype going on here, because this isn't a huge, as big as this looks. It's not, what was it? Not even a 3x. It was 180%. So it could have plenty more room to run. That's pretty exciting though. Pretty cool project.
Yeah, it is a cool project. It is a really strong NFT community kind of behind this project as well. Like I mentioned, they're on Abstract. They're doing a bunch of stuff with InfoFi as well, which is, you can read into that and see what you think about it. But it's also under 10 million market cap right now. So, we've talked about coins like that. If you find them interesting, they always have a lot of opportunity to run. So, if you got some lunch money, some spare change in the couches, maybe not too bad to throw it at it. But I definitely like Kris's mention there. Keep an eye on the chart and see if you can find a good entry. Or not, they could always run.
Yeah, Kris, put in like a cheeky buy order down here at like 6,500 or something like that. There's a a decent chance it'll fill, I feel like, right here. So I like that.
Yeah, and it is a meme coin, obviously, but it's also like it's a community coin too, you know. So I think that's it has like an interesting double aspect to it. With there's no utility behind it, which is always bullish for these kinds of things. But yeah, guys, check it
Yeah.
out if you like it. Kris, so we're also talking offline about this, but I've also seen this come up quite a bit in our chats on Discord. People kind of asking and wondering, oh, well, ETH is running. Should I sell my ETH now and start, trickling that down into some maybe lower cap alts that think we can run, all like Sui or, some others? Or should I sell my lower cap alt and start chasing this ETH rally? What do you think about that? And how would you play that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny right now. I feel like ETH still has a little bit more juice left in the tank. Like I think it's going to keep going for a while still. I think once it sort of breaks out of its all-time high, it's going to capture even more attention. So I don't know that I would necessarily rotate into or out of either one. Like if you're holding ETH, I would say definitely keep holding ETH right now. Like if I had I kind of wish I had more ETH than I do, you know. But at some point, yes, it is going to reverse. And so what would that look like? I think what you probably want to do is, of course, look at the ETH, the ETH alt pair on TradingView, and let's just kind of pull up a couple here and take a look at what we're seeing. So right now, a lot of these look really ugly. Like this is the Solana ETH chart, and most of them are going to be this. Like ETH is just crushing everything at the moment. But eventually, it will run out of steam. It will kind of wear out, and you will be looking for reversals. And so, really, what you want to be looking for is start to look for just kind of a bottoming pattern, and maybe actually zoom in on the daily time frame. The weekly is probably a little too sort of blunt, but look on the here's Solana ETH on the daily time frame. We can start to see with this move, this bullish divergence indicator, we're getting bullish divergences starting to form. And what I mean by that is, even though the price is continuing to go down, like here's a perfect example. Like in this dip right here where it bottomed, we had this really low bottoming sort of peak, I guess, in the RSI. But in the subsequent price dip, the RSI actually was not as low. It was higher. So this is actually a bullish divergence, meaning effectively this downtrend is starting to lose momentum. It hasn't rolled over yet. It still has a ways to go, but you just start to look for technical reversals like on the daily time frame. So what I'd want to see is, first we want to see these momentum divergences like this, and then we want to see price start to work its way back above these moving averages, start closing above the 10-day moving average and then the 20-day moving average, and just start to see some trend reversals. As soon as we see that, then we'll see that maybe ETH is starting to run out of steam and maybe the money's starting to rotate back out into these alts. And that would be the time to maybe take some of your ETH profits and start rolling them back into these alt positions. So this is the Solana. Let's look at SWI real quick and see. It's going to be mostly the same thing. I mean, again, all these charts look terrible against ETH right now, but that's okay because we know that it goes in waves. We know that it's cyclical and they'll come back around. So don't panic necessarily, because like ETH isn't going to just dominate the whole rest of the market for the rest of the way. Like it's only going to go up so much. It might do whatever, a 2, 3, 4x in there. Whereas a lot of these charts, even though they look terrible against ETH in this moment, might still have a 5 or a 10x left in the tank, because their market caps are so much lower than ETH. And so, but anyway, here's another one, very overextended to the downside, still a slight bullish divergence, very slight, in that this peak here is slightly above this previous one here. But same thing, we're going to be looking for, a reversal of these candles, some green candles, where they start closing above these moving averages. And then maybe look at XRP real quick. Kind of this, I mean, it's all going to be the same thing. That's effectively the criteria. You just want to be looking on the daily chart for bullish divergences and for reversals and closes above like a pair of moving averages, whether it's 10 and 20 or 14 and 7 and 14, or whichever pair you want to, it doesn't really matter. It's just, as long as there's a fast one and a slow moving one, you want to see, and ideally you want to see the faster moving average cross back up over the slow moving average. And that's going to give you, really strong signal that it looks like these coins are reversing against ETH. But you can see in the moment, really none of them are. In fact, all these downtrends are, if anything, they're gaining steam to the downside. So ETH is going to continue to be the play, I feel like, for maybe even, a few weeks or month or more even. We'll have to see how it goes. But right now, I think don't do anything as far as that goes. Like if you're wanting to do some kind of a rotation, like an ETH alt rotation, I would say don't do anything at the moment and just sort of kind of let it go. Like if you wanted to get exposure to ETH, I feel like you kind of missed the boat at this point. Like most of the run is already over. So just sort of stay where you're at. Otherwise, you'll risk getting chopped up in that rotation. Otherwise, just wait for the reversals to happen if you're in ETH, and then start to rotate some of that profit out into these other alts.
Well said. All right, we have a few questions that I want to kind of rapid fire into
Okay.
this coming up on time. And also, you have a new indicator as well that I think would be very good for us to highlight because it does tie in, very well to some of what we're seeing with Jordy Visser on the platform. But let's hit some of these questions. So X,
Okay.
This question comes on X from Dan Bull. Can you show Aptos?
Yeah, let's take a look. Just looking at the Aptos USD chart, it's almost like I don't even need to look at anything else, basically, because what this is telling me is that since the since the peak in the beginning of the year and then the subsequent April lows, Aptos has not managed to reverse its downward weekly trend. Like, in fact, it went on and set a lower low in June, which is a really ugly sign, and then it almost kind of triple bottomed here again, even more recently. And every time it's tried to break out, it's mostly just gotten rejected by this bull market support band, by these 20-week moving averages. And so it looks like it could be starting to bottom, but it's definitely not outpacing the rest of the market. It's sort of below average performance compared to a lot of assets in the top 100. So it's like, I don't even need to tell you how it's doing against Bitcoin and ETH, because if it's not even outpacing the dollar, we know it's not beating Bitcoin or ETH either. And so, I think Aptos right now is definitely not one that I would be in, because just quickly, what I'll show you is you want to see something that where this bull market support band is pointed way up and to the right. It's well in an uptrend out of the beginning of the year lows. It went on and broke the downtrend and went on and set a series of higher highs and higher lows. And if this band isn't pointed up and to the right, to me, that's an immediate deal breaker right there. That's just a no-go. I need to see an uptrend on the weekly time frame to get excited about anything right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said it once, many times. So I'll say it again. I think if you're in Aptos, you might as well. You'll be better served being in Sui. Let's just leave it there. Jordan P on the platform has a question: is lo-fi dead?
I don't ever want to say anything's dead, but here, let's look at it briefly. Yeah, I mean, in the sense that it's not outperforming, it's not keeping track with SWE, it's not even keeping track with the likes of Deep and other SWE plays. But we do have some decent bullish divergences here, which could be signaling a sign of seller exhaustion. So I'm not ready to give up on it yet, but it's definitely not doing well. I would say I kind of come back to this level here as like the make or break. Where is it? Like this initial June low. If it wicks down, or closes down below this level at 0.1, let's say 0.20, let's just say, or 2 cents. If it loses its 2 cent level and continues down, then I would say probably it's time to cut bait. But at the moment, I want to see how these bullish divergences play out, because these are pretty big numbers on this case. In this case, it's a 5, which is a pretty strong signal that maybe the sellers are exhausted at this point. So we'll see. But it's on thin ice, to be sure. Like it's definitely not awesome. It's not blowing anything else away. It's below average. I mean, there's no question about that. But is it dead? I'm not ready to call it yet.
Yeah, I defer to our what was a former lo-fi bull in our Discord, Dead Oxide, who found this one really early, and he loved it. He said the other day, I think on our Monday show, he said lo-fi was dead to him at least. So yeah. Anyway, last question before we dive into that indicator quickly. Lil Chipmunk, love the name. Kris, what probability, if any, would you put on this being a 4x 60-day cycle instead of a 3x?
4x 60-day cycle. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, are you saying, Lil Chipmunk, are you saying that Bitcoin's gonna 4x in this 60-day cycle? Like, I would like a little more on that, but I guess
Is
just
he, or are they asking, like, is there going to be four daily cycles within this current weekly cycle? Possibly.
it's
If that's
unclear.
the question, that's literally a coin flip. I mean, there's no way you can know that ahead of time. That's because, if anything, a 3 daily cycle, weekly cycle is the most common by far, and so it would have the highest probability. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I can go on. If you can clarify that quickly, then we can readdress it. But yeah.
Yeah, or Lil Chipmunk, you can come into the Discord and clarify it some more and dive into some conversation with us. Well, with that, Kris, let's see this shiny new toy that we have on display here.
So yeah, going back to Jordy Visser, he came on the platform not too long ago and did an interview with Raul, which was great. I highly recommend you log in and watch it. And on that, he talked about a lot of really good AI tokens. And then since then, I've been watching, or rather AI stocks, I should say, companies that are participating in sort of the build out of the AI infrastructure boom that we're seeing. Companies that build out data centers and generate electricity and generate cooling solutions for data centers and computer server technology and stuff like that. So not just the likes of say Meta and Google and the big tech companies, but a lot of other sort of peripheral companies that are playing a very important role in the build out of the AI revolution. And if you've been watching any of his YouTube content over the last couple of weeks, he identifies I don't know, 15 or more companies that are participating in this that have literally years-long backlogs of orders, to fulfill all of the requirements to build out all of these data centers and all of this AI infrastructure technology, the picks and shovels, if you will. And so their stocks, needless to say, are blowing everything else away. Like, these are the company. Like, if you were ever looking for stock picks to invest in outside of crypto, this is where you'd want to go, because again, they've got a built-in business book for 5+ years out, basically full of backlog. And so what I did is I took all of those companies, all of the symbols, and I basically made a like an equal weighted indicator that shows all of these, it shows it in a line chart that you can overlay on top of a Bitcoin chart. And then I gave it the option to basically plot it either relative to Bitcoin or on its own against USD. And so, like, right now it's plotted against Bitcoin. Let me toggle this off for a second. And so this is what the chart looks like against USD. You can see it's tracking Bitcoin. I mean, it looks like a crypto chart, basically all of these assets. And so it's doing amazingly well, but I wanted to make sure, I'm like, well, this looks good on paper, like against USD terms, but are they actually outpacing Bitcoin in this moment? And would I just be better off holding Bitcoin in this scenario? And so you can toggle this back on, and it looks like in the moment, it's actually not, they're not outpacing Bitcoin, which I think is important. But at times they do. And I think what I can use this indicator for is gauging when, like at the point at which the crypto market maybe starts to get a little overheated, we kind of enter into a bear market, it's likely that these stocks are going to continue to outperform in a larger market downturn, because again, they have built-in business going out for till the end of the decade, basically. They've got a backlog of orders going out for years still. And so they're going to weather any sort of economic downturn much better than most stocks will, and certainly most crypto will. And so I can use this chart, like when it turns green again, to know this is the time to be in these stocks. This is the time to rotate into this. And I wanted to kind of highlight this because I made this and I shared it in the Discord, in the Real Vision Discord. And this is the kind of stuff we do in there. Like, this is why it's so cool to be, a Real Vision member, be a Connect, be Pro, whatever. Get in there and start sharing ideas, because I'm not the only one that does this. There's tons of us that are making these kinds of really cool indicators and sharing them within our community, all the time. And I've got loads of indicators that I use that other community members have built that have helped me tremendously in navigating what's going on right now. And so this is just like a prime reason why we'll take the content that comes up on Real Vision and we'll go out and we'll take it, 3 or 4 steps further, and we'll come up with these indicators like this or other techniques or just cool ideas to share. and we'll share them with our community, and we just benefit from it even more and more. And so yeah, just kind of a plug for Real Vision, a plug for the Discord. Get on there and get into this, and you can benefit from stuff like this. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just great alpha, great early calls, and just great TA and indicators being shown. We use the bull market support band.com indicator, which was,
Right.
from one of our community members. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff like that. So make sure you join us if you don't want to miss out on that. And also, yeah, I think take this indicator as well. Maybe plot it up with this conversation that Andreas and Jordy Visser are having, because Jordy Visser is going to talk about, share essentially how he's identifying trades as well. So maybe plot that up against this and see any insights you guys can glean from it. And also make sure you check out that Jordy Visser and Raul conversation. And if you're not signed up to Connect already, go ahead and do it. Right now we have the Ready, Set, Connect series going on. Like I said, 2 weeks of basically AI, crypto, and macro content and how they all intertwine with each other. We have some great discounts for that tier going on right now, so you can go ahead and take advantage. It won't last forever, so make sure you go ahead and do that, and then join us in the Discord and stress test your ideas. It's been a great show, Kris. We covered a lot. Until next time, we'll see you on Monday, and we'll see you again next week on Wednesday. Don't fuck this up, everyone, and fuck you higher. Let's go.